Oh, there's a heart up there that I seem to have forgotten about. Couple hearts. Yeah, I'm just... Yes and no. It's basically a mix, because SCP is basically established as, like, alternate timeline realities. So there's not even a full guarantee that some of those exist in our dimension. Because they still have some random little guys, like the self-replicating cake and stuff like that. I posted a tweet recently that you might have seen. It is weird. But, I got the SCP books that they made with a fan. It was like a... what you call it? Kickstarter, that's it. Wow, brain. But... like those weird smaller ones that just... Yeah, fun fact, I actually replicated one of the small ones for my boyfriend's birthday last year. Because he's a huge SCP fan. He's actually how I found out about it. But I actually made the self-replicating cake. I was very sneaky about it. I divided the recipe in half, so I made 2 small cakes. I decorated them exactly the same. I hid the one in like this under deep recess of the fridge, basically. I presented him with the one, and we ate most of it down to one little piece that he put away to save for later. I'm like, perfect. So the next day, I actually pulled out the second one, and I'm like, hey, your cake healed, and he's like, what? It was much good. I think I still have a picture somewhere of it. But yeah, I like them. I also like how some of them are kind of like retellings of legends, like Cain and Abel. Both of them being their own separate SCP. What would be more deadly to the world? All SCPs being real or all Pokemon being real? Well, it depends. If we're following, like, the rules of the world, then I would probably say the Pokemon would be more dangerous, since they are considered to be more wild animals and stuff like that. So you kind of have to set, because you have to set which rule set we're dealing with. If we're getting the rule set from the fantasy world that they come from, I'm not as worried about the SCPs because, well, they're contained and they have all these ways of watching over them, and there's the organization that's watching it. Whereas with Pokemon, no one's really watching them. No, they are. If you actually read the Pokedexes, there are some that legitimately steal children. There are some... the one that upsets me the most is Yamask, where your soul, it literally turns into a Pokemon that carries the mask of your former face, and every time it looks down at it, it remembers when it was human and cries. So I'd rather not live in a world where there's a very high real chance I am a perpetually tortured soul for eternity, and then, you know, captured by some kid that's probably just gonna shove me in a computer somewhere. Let's see. Some SCPs are out doing stuff, but it's only when it's deemed safe to do so, or if they manage to lock down the area, because... well, lethal Pokemon, lethal SCPs, I don't think it's compared. It is actually, again, if you actually read the Pokedex entries, it's pretty messed up, especially the ghost Pokemon, like Driftbloom, that is constantly known for carrying children away, and it hates fat children because they're too heavy. Or the Drowsy that break into people's houses to eat their dreams through their nose and stuff like that. It's a matter of, if you're applying the Pokedex entries... oh, as I totally lost track, because Pokemon. Yeah. Pokemon's a big topic for me, so I have a lot of fun talking Pokemon. But, yeah, and they're like... or like Gardevoir, that is known for literally opening black holes to protect its owner. So there's a lot. So and also with the exponentially growing amount of Pokemon going on, and I don't know, and the fact that some of them kind of synergize with each other, because even with the SCPs, they manage to use other SCPs to contain, like some SCPs are used to contain other SCPs, so it's kind of like a self-contained universe in a way. Whereas Pokemon, a lot of the times, they just mess each other up. Also, you know, the existential dread worry of if a Ditto is actually a human or not. That's always fun. Yeah, I think at least with SCP, the subjects are more self-contained, whereas Pokemon, the rules are so loose that you yourself are at a higher risk of either being killed, taken, or turned into a Pokemon against your will. I find that a lot more unnerving than the idea of some SCP monster being out there under surveillance. Yeah, stuff like that. Or like with Drampa, when he finds out that a kid that he likes is being bullied, he will go and burn down the bully's house. I mean, but that's in the Pokemon world, that seems to be deemed okay. Like, nobody is actually taming this problem. It's just, yeah, this is a scientific fact about what they do. It kind of sucks, doesn't it? Whereas with SCP, it's like, this is a problem for humanity, and we're going to contain it as best we can. So, again, you really got to establish what type of rules are happening. Because if we go by the Pokemon world rules, then I guess it's kind of okay, because Pokemon, I guess, kind of want to be with people. But even that is about to change with the Pokemon Arceus game coming out, because there's actually a mechanic where the Pokemon in the wild will attack you, the player. So I am far more scared of the Pokemon world than the SCP world. Ooh, hello, little guys. No, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Because also with SCP, this is my life, basically. Playing Isaac and talking Pokemon and SCPs. Because that's also another thing, SCPs versus Pokemon, is with the SCP subject is a one-of-a-kind. Whereas with Pokemon, with the exception of the legendaries, you have multiple of that subject being everywhere. So it's like, there's not just one Driftbloom trying to kidnap children and take them away to God knows where. There's a whole nest of Driftbloom just mass kidnapping children and probably dropping them to their death somewhere. Like, which is another thing, it's like, yeah. Well, there's also uncertainty with the Pokemon, too, because constantly finding whole continents of Pokemon that have been doing God knows what, and the constant potential of the Pokemon isn't even the universe. But, because, yeah, like, just look at Charizard constantly evolving. Like, nothing is a constant in the Pokemon world. And then you got, like, Rotom getting into all your appliances and shit, like... Because, like, even the documentation on the Pokemon that we do have is constantly changing. Every generation, there's a new Pokemon Pokedex entry. So even the Pokemon we have our eyes on don't have a consistent recording of them. Or there's the regional variants. So there's obviously, like, a legitimate, not Pokemon evolution, but, like, Darwinism evolution going on, too. So they're constantly changing. Whereas, again, the SCPs, it's like, they might change, but again, there's only one, and they're usually under tight surveillance. So, because SCPs is basically just a matter of kind of if magic ran in the world, I would say. Whereas Pokemon, it's like, nah, this stuff just kind of is born and it happens, and this is the creature you deal with now. Because that's the other slightly terrifying thing, is how a lot of Pokemon are basically based on real animals, but extended to the extreme degree. Or, you know, you got your ghost Pokemon, which is, you know, soul manipulation and all that good jazz. Little horn. There we go. So yeah, no, I am far more scared of Pokemon than SCPs. But again, the Pokedex isn't always accurate. It is constantly being updated. And even the first-gen Pokedex, they had no idea what Mew was, so that was still a confusion. So the Pokedex is what the SCP journals are. Because the Pokedex is constantly being updated, because literally, they both have the same dynamic of find new subject, record subject, and keep the information constantly updated. So the Pokedex is no different from an SCP file. Because, like, even, like, the first season of the Pokemon anime, when Ash first saw Ho-Oh, Pokedex had no idea what that Pokemon was. Or, again, when we first met Togepi, Pokedex had no idea what the subject was until Professor Oak got to study him. So even the Pokedex isn't constantly... oh yeah, Ash is totally stupid, but the Pokedex isn't a constant source. It is also a always being updated, researched thing, just like the SCPs. But they aren't researching them in a contained environment like the SCPs. They are just kind of guessing and even, like, legend recording based on them out in the wild. So, like, you have these Pokemon that are clearly harming people or eating souls, like the Litwick line that literally uses souls to feed its fire, yet they're like, yeah, it just kind of does that, good luck when you die, like... So I feel the Pokemon world is a lot more loosey-goosey about these really, really heckin' dangerous animals, and they're just really hoping in the belief system of the Pokemon will like you and want to harmonize with humanity, whereas the SCPs are like, yeah, no, this is dangerous, we're gonna get this on lockdown, and we're just gonna keep making sure we put more and more padlocks until it stops.